Good morning again, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. This is update number 2. We continue to monitor Hurricane Beryl at the National Emergency Operations Center, and we have a crucial update to share with you at this time from the Met Office. So I now turn you over to Ms. Cassie Johnson to update you on the progress of Hurricane Beryl.
Good morning again, viewers. Here is the 8 a.m. update of Hurricane Beryl. It has regained its strength and is now again a Category 4 hurricane. I will repeat, Beryl is now again a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 130 miles per hour. It is located about 12.0 degrees north, 60.5 degrees west, and Grenada is at 12.1 degrees north, 61.7 degrees west. So this is just about 70 miles east of Grenada, and it is moving towards the west-northwest at 20 miles per hour. The minimum central pressure has reduced to 959 millibars, and Beryl is expected to impact us or continue impacting us as we speak. And as we see that outer bands from that hurricane is already affecting Grenada. Here on the screen is the radar, which shows us precipitation. We can see that we're in a little dry spot right about now, but we can expect more rainfall to come in the next couple of minutes. If you look at the screen, you can see those yellow areas, and the center, the eye of that hurricane is right in the middle of that yellow area there to the east of us, and those yellow areas are indicating strong precipitation. Thunderstorms are coming our way in the next couple of hours. Back to you.
Thank you, Cassie, for that update. We now want to hear from Dr. Terence Walters of NaDMA.
All right, thank you very much, and good morning to the listening and viewing public. So as it is, we have dangerous Category 4 Hurricane Beryl that will impact us in the next couple of hours. So we are going to be impacted by Hurricane Beryl. So things you can do, things we encourage you to do from the agency perspective. We are going to be impacted by the hurricane. Please remain indoors, whether you're at home or with relatives and friends or at a shelter. Please remain indoors. Provide comfort to those around you, because some people may be panicking. Some people may be, afraid of what's happening. So you have to try to provide comfort to those around you. Do not attempt to go outside for any reason. Some people attempt to go outside to videotape, what's happening, to take photographs, and so please do not attempt to go outside, because this is a very dangerous Category 4 hurricane that can have serious impacts. There may be flying debris that can injure you, so we ask that you please do not attempt to go outside. Now, there may be times when you have to make various decisions based on the situation. We ask that you use wisdom and good judgment. So people have asked that if your house is damaged or destroyed in the middle of the storm, you'd have to make decisions to get to safety. So please, we ask that you use good judgment when you're making those decisions, if you have to make those decisions to get to safety. Now, after the storm, because after we have passed through the storm, we ask that you do not go sightseeing. Some people are tempted as soon as the wind die down to go sightseeing, but it may just be the eye of the storm. So we ask that you look out for the eye of the storm, which is a period of calm, and then the wind will return from the opposite direction with greater intensity. So we ask that you look out for the eye, but after the storm, we ask that you do not go sightseeing. Some people are tempted. They want to see what has happened. Do not go sightseeing, and wait until the all clear is given by the meteorological office before you can venture out. Again, please wait until the all clear is issued by the meteorological office before you can venture out. Just before the storm, one of the things that you can do is secure your important documents and also secure your appliances. So you can secure your documents, ensure that you do that in a sealed, watertight container or bag or package, and also secure your appliances. Those are things that you can do so you can have them for use after the event. Now, this dangerous Category 4 hurricane will have some impacts. There will be dangerous winds, storm surge, and rainfall that can cause flooding. So we ask that you look out for that. There will be fallen trees, downed utility poles and lines, landslides, roof loss. Those are some of the impacts that we can anticipate from this dangerous Category 4 hurricane, and we ask that you be very mindful that these impacts can occur. In terms of utility lines, we ask that you do not attempt to touch the utility lines after the event. Do not cut utility wires. Please do not cut utility wires, and please do not cut utility poles. Please do not cut utility poles. So those are some of the things that we ask that you observe after the event, well, before and during. So there are a number of things that you can do. Again, it is about preserving life and protecting property, but we want to remind you that this is a very dangerous Category 4 hurricane that can have severe impacts and several different hazards that can come with it, including, like we said, flooding and severe winds, storm surge, and the rainfall can accumulate and cause flooding. So we ask our citizens to continue to be safe as we are impacted by dangerous Category 4 Hurricane Beryl. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Walters, for your tips. I want to now turn to the Honorable Prime Minister, Minister for National Security and Disaster Management.
Thank you, Press Secretary. Good morning again to the citizens of Grenada, carriacou, and Petit Martinique, as well as to our guests and visitors who are with us in Grenada at this very challenging time. I want to re-emphasize that the hurricane is upon us. The location of the hurricane at 8 a.m., which is 26 minutes ago, is 12 degrees north, 60.5 degrees west. Grenada's location is 12.1 degrees north, 61.7 degrees west. So the storm is virtually upon us. The next several hours are the most critical time period since Grenada has been under hurricane warning. So we are actually at the stage where the hurricane is upon the tri-island state. It is absolutely critical that we remain indoors, that we hunker down, that we find the safest places within our homes, within the shelters, within wherever you are, to try and remain safe. Should your home be damaged or destroyed during this period, we first ask you to ascertain whether there is any secure or safe place within your home that you can remain. For many of us, our bathrooms may very well be the safest place because they tend to be made of concrete and have very few windows. If everything else fails and your bathroom is still standing and you're able to stay there, we will advise you to in fact remain there until you are given the all clear. Because we expect significant rainfall from the storm, the hurricane passing over us, it is important that we minimize going outside because there's the risk of flooding. There's also the risk of landslides and the risk of fallen utility poles, as well as fallen trees, and the risk of flying debris. So now is not the time to be adventurous. It is not the time to go outside. We expect that these conditions will remain for several hours into the afternoon, and so we please ask you to heed the warning, to take the necessary precautions, and to continue to be safe. Our friends in carriacou and Petit Martinique, We are paying special attention to them because the trajectory of the hurricane suggests that the eye of the hurricane may very well pass over Carriacou and Petit Martinique. So again, this is the most crucial time since Grenada has been on the hurricane watch. We are continuing to pray. We are continuing to be prepared. The team at NaDMA, including the Royal Grenada Police Force and all essential services, are on high alert to render assistance to our citizens who have moved into the shelters. We have approximately over 3,000 persons at shelters, so this is a mammoth undertaking. We will do everything again to keep you safe and to keep you secure. For the rest of the population who are in your residences, please remain there, and we do hope that as we provide further updates, that with God's blessings, the damage and the destruction would be minimal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Before we wrap up this briefing, we want to hear from our media practitioners. If anyone has a question, you may go ahead and pose them at this time. If not, we will hear again from Ms. Johnson, who will give another summary of what's happening with Hurricane Beryl. So, question from the media.
Good morning. My name is Dennis Chabral from the Caribbean News Desk and the Demerara Waves Online News in Guyana. To Mr. Prime Minister, can you please say to what extent have you been alerting your CARICOM colleagues to provide any emergency response in light of the size of the hurricane and the potential damage?
All right. Well, I've been in constant communication with all of my colleagues within the CARICOM region at a political level, from all of yesterday into the wee hours of this morning and today. So they are on standby to provide any assistance that is required, whether it be relief aid, whether it be water, whether it be support from a security and safety standpoint. NaDMA has been in constant communication with NaDMA. We've already shortlisted potential relief items that we may need if it gets to that. I spoke with Prime Minister Gonzalez in St. Vincent a short while ago. We are essentially both in the same predicament. It might simply be a question of degree whether Grenada or St. Vincent gets more of the brunt of the hurricane. So we all mobilized within the region. I think my colleagues are all standing in solidarity with the people of Grenada, because in one way or the other, they too have all experienced the devastation of strong hurricanes.
And if you'll permit me a brief follow-up, sir, more from a Guyana perspective, have you specifically asked Guyana for any type of specific aid, and if so, what it is?
Well, I think we discussed security support services, if necessary, with President Ali. And so he is on standby. His Commissioner of Police is in contact with our Commissioner of Police. But at this stage, obviously, Guyana is the outgoing chair of CARICOM. And we expect that any assistance that we ask for, and it is in a position to render, it will do so.
Thank you. Any other question from the media?
Yes, I have a question. Anybody can answer, Prime Minister, but first up, let me just make a comment. I must say that the team from NaDMA and from you guys and have been doing really good when it comes to updating. Very happy to know that we guys have been updated upon the hours when it said that you guys would, and I'm quite happy with that. I'm asking a question as it relates to passes. I know that it was required that persons, essential workers or individuals who would have to be out would have to have passes. Is anything working as it relates to that? I know that no one has been issued any passes thus far. And also, what sort of support are you going to be giving some of the shelters? I know that some areas have received toiletries. The shelter I'm presently volunteering at received some toiletries, but there are some vulnerable persons in various shelters, including mine, who may need a bit more of assistance. So what sort of assistance has been given as it relates to that?
All right, thank you. I will answer the questions, and if necessary, Mr. Walters will supplement. But I want to correct you on the passes, because the Royal Grenada Police Force, via the Office of the Commissioner of Police, have been issuing passes. The Commissioner of Police under the emergency regulations is the entity authorized to issue passes. Media workers specifically are included in the group of exempted persons who can get passes. So if your media house needs you or anyone else to receive a pass, all they're required to do is to submit the name and the request to the Office of the Commissioner of Police, and the team will take care of it. In fact, the passes are being issued electronically to facilitate for easier and more efficient access on the road. So that is happening, and we've had no issues with it. So if any media houses, since I'm assuming you're asking on behalf of the media, if there's staff who need to be out, this is important. It's not a general pass. It's been issued on a needs-be basis, given the danger we're facing and the risk. So if any media houses require the passes, you can get them via the Office of the Commissioner of Police. In terms of the support that is being provided to shelters, it includes blankets, toiletries if necessary. We want to emphasize that in the first instance, persons were advised that they were required to walk with, as much as possible, food and personal items for at least 24 hours. But we are happy to support as much as we can with any material assistance that is required. But we have to bear in mind that because we're actually right now in the middle of the storm, the hurricane, we also want to make sure that we minimize the presence of persons on the road. Or the shelter managers will report in to us if there's any specific requirements or requests that they have. So for example, we've gotten a request for a backup generator in the event power goes down at one shelter because there are persons there with medication that needs to be kept cool. We will certainly facilitate those kinds of requests. So I'm not sure if Mr. Walters would want to add further in terms of the support for persons within the shelters.
Yes, thank you, Prime Minister. And just to say here that we will again conduct an assessment, because we need to have a good sense of what is happening at the shelters, how many people at the shelters, the age groups and so, before we can make certain decisions about how much and what we're providing. So we definitely need to do an assessment, but we will provide support to the persons at the shelters as needs be.
Thank you, Rena. Do you have another question?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify something, Minister. It's not relating to a media pass. I know that some security firms are stationed at shelters, designated shelters, and some would have stayed overnight, while others would have to come in as it relates to change in shift, because you can't have 1 or 2 security officers right through without having any sleep. What has been done for these security firms? Do they do the same protocol as it relates to the passes?
That's correct. Security firms are also exempt. Yes, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but we've listed the categories of employees and personnel who are exempt, and they include security personnel from private security firms.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Rena, and thank you for
your
volunteerism. We certainly commend you for that. We have another question. You may proceed at this time.
Good morning. Don't know who will be able to answer the question. I just want to know, is there any mandatory evacuation for people in the low-lying areas? And also, with the shelters being at 3,000 already, possibility exists that it may get at an increase. The shelters have the capacity to hold any more persons, any more people, if needs be.
Yes, I can. Yes, yes. So the shelters, we do have 105 shelters across Grenada, Carriacou, and the Petite Martinique. As it relates to the mandatory evacuation, okay, we encourage people to, if they are living in low-lying areas or areas that are prone to flooding, okay, we encourage them to move to higher ground, move to relatives or friends, or proceed to the emergency shelter. That's the instruction. Because we do have areas that are prone to flooding, and a lot of areas on the coastline, and in particular on the east, where the storm or the hurricane will be impacting most from the east coast. So we do ask that people who live on the right along the coast, or if you live in low-lying areas that are prone to flooding, that you please, please move to higher ground, to family or friends, or to the emergency shelters.
Thank you, Dr. Walters. I see two other journalists online. If you have questions, you may proceed at this time.
Good morning. Good morning. I just want to join Rena in saying that you guys are actually doing a good job, and I have said so on 2 programs that I've been on for the morning. So, good job. Now, security at the shelter. Can you tell us what sort of security is available there? 3,000 people across the country in shelters is a fairly big number. And how soon after the hurricane has gone past will the restriction of movement under the state of emergency be lifted?
Okay, I can talk to the security and check. At the shelters, the district teams are responsible for providing security for the shelter. So they will. There's a team at each district responsible for safety and security, and so they provide security. But the Royal Grenada Police Force will augment that, and the officers of the RGPF they normally do patrols. And if there is a problem at the shelter that the security at the shelter is unable to handle, then they can make a call to the Royal Grenada Police Force. But all the shelters have people that are responsible for the security at the installation.
And I just want to indicate that the management team at the shelters are in constant communication with the Emergency Operations Center. And at the Emergency Operations Center, we have a dedicated law enforcement to treat with those issues. In addition, for many of the districts themselves have their own regional emergency operating centers. So, for example, in St. David's, it's the Westall Secondary School. In St. Patrick's, it's in River-Sally. And these districts are in contact with the district police stations that are close to the various shelters as well. And the police officers at these shelters are also providing the necessary support to ensure that security and safety is maintained at the shelters. So we have live real-time communication and data exchange of information, and the RGPF is always on standby within the districts to provide support if necessary. And in some of the shelters, you have the added security because there are schools, and most of the schools have some form of security personnel at the schools as well. So even to open the schools, which were shelters and so on, you would have had security personnel there with the keys and so on, and they would have been required as well to continue doing their security jobs as well. So that's in relation to the shelters. We can't give a definitive answer at this time as to how soon after the storm passes that the restrictions on liberty, so to speak, will be lifted. I think one of the key things that we've learned from Hurricane Ivan is that in many instances, if we do not control the movement of people in the immediate aftermath of the hurricane, that it actually sets back our recovery efforts. And I'll give an example when it comes to safety. We do not want people attempting to clear cables or any lines from utility companies, whether they be telephone or electricity. Particularly for electricity, it is likely to be very dangerous. And in the case of telecommunications, as one of the telecommunications providers indicated, even though the cable may be on the line, on the ground, sorry, it is unlikely that the cable would be broken. And so even though it's on the ground, it's possible that they can still communicate. And it would make it easier for them to restore the communication systems in Grenada if people do not go out and attempt to cut the cables themselves. So in the immediate aftermath, we need to be able to ensure that we can do the rapid and quick assessment of the damage as effectively as possible, and that would require that we minimize people's movement. And second, we need to give the emergency services, particularly the utility companies, ample opportunity to try and restore and clean up any fallen poles or utility lines as quickly as possible, again, to help with the recovery. But once we have assessed that it is safe to do so, and once we've assessed that there is minimal disruption to be caused from allowing persons to go back to their normal lives, Obviously, it's in all of us' interest to do so as quickly as possible. But naturally, we would call upon the cooperation of all of our citizens to bear with us if it becomes necessary to keep the restrictions in place a little longer, just to facilitate the recovery effort.
Prime Minister, the ports are a very important installation. Should we require aid relief? To what extent are you in communication with the Port Authority regarding their response plan?
Right. Both the Port and Airport Authority would have had their hurricane response plan initiated from the time we went on the hurricane watch. In addition to the port, the airport, we have designated a focal point at the Prime Minister's Ministry Senior Planning Officer to be the focal point for dealing with all of the external agencies that are going to that have already reached out in terms of possible relief and aid. So once we are through this passage, and if it is necessary for relief aid to come in, we expect that both the port and airport, since they've essentially been closed, would be in a position to rapidly deploy to allow the relief efforts to go as smoothly as possible.
Thank you, Callistra. We have one final journalist online. If you have a question, I'll give you the opportunity to ask at this time.
I just wanted to ask, I don't know if I missed it. Can you tell us what is happening with Hurricane Chris? And how is Grenada going to be affected right after this hurricane that is about to hit us?
Your question, Rena?
Well, Ms. Johnson can answer, but I can tell you from the brief we had, it's not a hurricane, it's a tropical depression. And at 8 a.m., the center of it was located at 20.2 degrees north and longitude 97.7. It is moving west near 12 miles per hour, and the trajectory is that motion will continue, and the system they anticipate is likely to dissipate. However, that is not guaranteed. I think the Hurricane Center and our meteorological office will continue to monitor it, I think just like any other system, on a 3-hour basis at least. And we will provide updates to you on this. And it's important that you raise this, because even if it dissipates, we may suffer some adverse consequences from it, particularly precipitation. And so we have to bear that in mind. We just had a tropical storm that passed on the early part of the weekend. We're now in the middle of a hurricane, and we have a tropical depression following. And while the projection is that it might dissipate, I think we all know we don't control the weather. And so we have to continue monitoring it. But I will let Ms. Johnson, who is the expert, perhaps provide further details on it.
Thank you. Just a bit of correction. Her tropical depression, Chris, has no impact, will have no impact on us. It is actually in Mexico. It has nothing to do with us. What we are looking at is an area of disturbance which has a 30% chance of cyclone formation within the next 48 hours, which is to the west of Beryl that is approaching. It has weakened a bit because last update it was at about 40% chance of cyclone formation. However, right now it's at 30% chance of formation. So we will keep monitoring it and give updates as deemed necessary.
Thank you. We allow for final questions from the media, and then we'll wrap up this update. All right, there's no indication that we have further questions online. So at this time, I want to turn you over to Cassie Johnson from the Met Office. She's going to give you a final summary of what's taking place with Hurricane Beryl.
Okay, so just to repeat that at 8 a.m., Hurricane Beryl has re-strengthened into a Category 4 hurricane. It is at 12.0 degrees north, 60.5 degrees west, which is just about 70 miles east of Grenada. Maximum sustained winds is 130 miles per hour, and it is moving towards the west-northwest at 20 miles per hour. Minimum central pressure is 959 millibars. Between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m., recorded rainfall at the Point Celine office was 13.8 millimeters, which is just about 0.5 inches. We know that towards the south of the island we're relatively drier than other parts. So even though we would have recorded this at the airports, other parts of the island would have gotten more rainfall, even in excess of 1 inch of rainfall at this time, and we are still expecting 3 to 6 inches of rainfall, up to 10 inches of rainfall in some areas, so please be vigilant about that. We are currently warning the public about flooding and landslides as we have gotten rainfall in the earlier parts of the weekend. Barbados has noted a gust of 60 knots this morning, and we are expecting our winds to pick up during the day as Hurricane Beryl moves closer and closer to us. The northeast quadrants of the hurricane is normally the most dangerous part, so as the eye moves across, we are expecting worsening conditions for the north of the island as the eye moves more so over Carriacou and goes towards the west into the Caribbean Sea. That's it for me today. Back to you.
Thank you, Cassie. I think you've been doing such an excellent job, and we just want to thank you immensely for your hard work in keeping us informed and updated. And we will continue to share information. We'll continue to share updates from the various stakeholders, including updates from Carriacou and Petit Martinique and the shelters. The RGPF, they're supported by private security firms. They're on the ground ensuring that all our citizens are safe. Now, once again, Beryl has regained its strength. It is now a Category 4. And as Ms. Johnson alluded to earlier, it's behaving very strangely. So just remain safe. Take all precaution to remain safe. Thank you once again, team. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, again, for your clear explanations. Thank you, Dr. Walters. And I want to say special thanks to our listeners online for sending support through prayers. And thank you to our dedicated Prime Minister who's been with us, been on the ground with us here at our Operations Center. Thank you for ensuring that the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique remain safe. So once again, thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more updates.